Hey, what's up, everybody? Great to be back with you. Terry Hansen here, host of the Sales Performance Improvement radio show. I'm excited to be with you because today we are going to spend a little bit of time reviewing some of the insights and key takeaways from a very important sales enablement research study that was conducted just last year in 2021 by two groups. The first is the software company Seismic, and in partnership with a consulting company called Callan Consulting. Anyway, last year they produced the annual sales enablement benchmark report for 2021. And there's some really key insights and takeaways that I want to share with you as soon as we come back. So stay with me. For over 15 years, I ran a successful outsourced sales enablement and consulting firm before it was acquired by Rize Holdings in 2020. But while I was able to help hundreds of my own clients improve their sales productivity, marketing effectiveness, and grow their revenue, the sales growth game is always changing. Every year brings new challenges to growing sales as technology, competition, economic conditions, and customer buying behavior change. In these turbulent times, how do you improve sales and marketing and grow revenue when you're new to your leadership position, or you don't have the right resources in place, or you're just battling dysfunction inside your own company? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. These days, I'm on a new quest to discover what's working in today's dynamic sales and marketing environment and bringing those treasures and insights back to you. My name is Terry Hansen, and this is Sales Performance Improvement Radio. All right. The other day, I was doing some research, and I was just a little curious where this whole concept and idea of sales enablement came from, how long it's been with us. And I started doing some research online, and I'm kind of a naturally, just kind of by DNA, I'm kind of just a history buff. I kind of geek out a little bit about context and origin and where things come from, and even the lessons that can be learned from history and context. It just, for me in my brain, it just really helps paint a little bit bigger picture. And I ran into two things that I wanted to spend some time chatting with you a little bit about. The first is, one of the things that I ran into was a really cool annual sales enablement benchmark report for 2021 that I alluded to in the intro, that I want to share some key insights and takeaways from. But also I was struck by what's just been going on, frankly, over the last 50 years when it comes to sales enablement. And I thought I'd just take a quick minute to review some of that history and where this whole industry, or this whole discipline, it's not really an industry, but more of a discipline and a business focus of sales enablement and sales operations has really come from, how it's evolved, some of the lessons that we can learn there, and really kind of where we are headed, where we are today, and as well as where we are headed in the future. And I think for any director or VP level executive in any sort of company, if you're focused on sales operations or marketing operations or sales or revenue enablement in any of those flavors, then there's some key takeaways. But rewinding the clock just a little bit, way back in the 1970s and 80s, we can tip our hats and thank Xerox and IBM, those great organizations. Early on, they started codifying and systematizing sales and sales processes a little bit more, and coming up with philosophies and strategies, something called strategic selling and needs satisfaction selling. Way back in those early days, they started analyzing what makes the very best B2B salespeople sell the way that they do. And so after observations and whatnot, they started kind of formalizing what this actually looks like. Well, in the 90s, we started seeing the emergence of more consultative based selling approaches. And so that's where we kind of get the Sandler selling process. We get spin selling, we get snap, we either get consultative value. It really focused on consultation, value, solution. And then but something as good and as wonderful as those were, focusing again on numbers. You know, you've got to hit your numbers, crank the numbers, law of averages. Also really aggressively focused on personality selling to different kind of personality styles, using DISC, for example, as as an example, or even just focusing on specific sales methodologies. That seemed to be kind of the emphasis and focus in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But around 2000, when the internet came around, that really changed the game pretty fundamentally. We started seeing, for example, things like email or PowerPoint, and even the emergence of platforms and tools like Salesforce. In the early days of the internet, they start popping up, and what a tremendous impact those electronic and digital platforms and devices and tools to have had on sales communication. And what's been interesting is in those early days of the internet, there was really kind of an explosion of platforms and technology and tools. And we started seeing companies like Marketo or HubSpot again, or Dropbox or Salesforce. And then not very long after that was the whole explosion of social media with LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all of the rest of those social media channels that have, again, dramatically influenced and impacted digital selling and lead generation and communications. Well, by the 2010s, 10 plus years ago, all of the tools and resources out there started getting more analytical. A greater emphasis was being placed on reporting, on dashboards, on analytics, on tracking and measuring and monitoring. And so at this point in time, we've had a decade of focus really on sales enablement and focusing very specifically on tracking, measuring, and monitoring what's working, what's not, and trying hard to fix it. But anyway, this whole sales enablement movement and discipline really kind of hit its zenith, I think, in really about 2013, even with the formalized organization of the Sales Enablement Society. So there's now organizations and associations that you can be a part of. So if you're a sales enablement leader and you're not yet have a membership to any sort of national or international sales enablement society or association, highly recommended. There's magazines out at this point. There's whole industries and conferences devoted towards this now at this point. Well, which brings us up to today, in essence, 2022. And the question is okay, so what can we learn from history, and where have we been and where are we at today? I think a couple of the key lessons and insights that we can learn from history is it's evolved from just focusing on a methodology. If you sell this way, you will crush it and hit your numbers and do awesome things, right? It's evolved past just focusing on the right kinds of personality traits and qualities and characteristics. If you're this type of personality or behavioral style, or if you communicate and interact this way, you're going to be successful. Or it's evolved past just only having technology or having platforms and tools and resources, and evolve past just only having analytics and tracking and measuring and all that. So we've had all that, and it's migrated way past that, and even evolved past just training and teaching and coaching. For years in my own personal sales enablement business, I spent the first half of my career as basically just a B2B sales trainer, and made my living training sales teams on how to sell effectively. And as powerful and as good as it was, I knew and I learned eventually that sales training by itself was not the silver bullet and was not the one-size-fits-all solution to every sales enablement problem out there. It just wasn't. And so the latter half of my career was focused on really expanding beyond just sales training, coaching, and mentoring to get onto some of the other kind of non-training, non-educational interventions and programs and solutions to help clients succeed. So we've really kind of evolved past that. So sales enablement today is kind of a different animal. And I thought I would turn to the Seismic company and Callan Consulting to kind of reveal what they found. Now, their research that they did started back in December of 2020, and it went over the course of about a 60-day period. They ended in January of 2021, and then assembled all the data And then in the first, second, third quarter, somewhere around there, they kind of launched all of the findings out to the public. Now, the research that they did or conducted, they gathered information from over 1,000 different senior executives that had decision-making authority over sales enablement. All of the companies and the executives were kind of in that B2B, business-to-business niche, generating over $10 million in annual revenue and had at least 50 sales reps on their rosters. And these companies came from, 5 different countries. So a very good, I think, a pretty wide swath of information that they gathered. And what was interesting to me in some of the findings is that sales enablement as a discipline is highly focused really in 3 sectors. So if you happen to be working in these 3 sectors, these 3 industries, know that executives are investing and spending a lot more time and effort and energy dumping money and effort into sales enablement. The first is technology. So technology companies dumping a huge amount of emphasis and focus on sales enablement. Second is the financial industry, investment in financial industry. And third is the healthcare and medical industry. So those 3 industries, although yes, there's others, those are 3 humongous industries that are investing a lot right now in sales enablement. And in the future, a lot more research and a lot more innovation will be coming out of those 3 industries primarily. But what's interesting, again, is that sales enablement, as it has evolved from just a training focus or a methodology or personality focus, or just sheerly a technology or an analytics or a data, approach. It's become much more holistic and well-rounded, and crosses over 3 core departments. Ultimately, sales enablement is a support division or a support discipline or department, if you will, that supports one of 3 primary departments in a company. First and foremost, the biggest one is obviously sales. So sales enablement executives and directors and teams will be focused all of their firepower in helping salespeople sell more effectively and just increase their level of productivity. Second is marketing. Sales enablement as a focus or as a discipline is increasingly being aligned with marketing so that marketing can just be, frankly, more effective at what it's doing in its branding and its demand generation and generating quality leads and qualifying those, queuing them up for sales. So just helping marketing be more effective. Third is the customer service department, really refining and improving the overall customer experience. Sales enablement's being positioned and focused and aligned with customer service so that customers can have a better experience and be retained longer, all for the purpose really of boosting, scaling, and growing sales revenue. So I think those takeaways from the report were also very interesting. And by the way, I'll be putting a link to the full report that you can click on and download your own copy and kind of read through. But I'm giving you some of the key cliff notes and things that I found that were really interesting. So when you think about the sales, the customer life cycle, and if you put that kind of on a continuum, and you can see that marketing is on the far left-hand side. They generate the leads, they qualify the leads, they queue them up and pass them off to sales. Sales takes the ball, they run with it, they qualify, they present, they close the deal, then they pass it off to customer support, customer service that helps retain those customers long-term. Sales enablement now, these days, is branching over all aspects of the customer life cycle. So it's not just siloed and focused on one department, one niche, one area of the company. It has jurisdiction and focus over all 3 of those departments or those teams, really for one purpose and one purpose only: increase the return on investment. The company invests a lot of dollars in hiring salespeople and marketing people and customer service people, tons of money on buildings and equipment and resources and tools. So there's been a lot of money that's been invested. Sales enablement's core goal is generate a solid return on investment from all of that capital that's been invested into the company's machine. Another key takeaway is the role and importance that data plays in all aspects of sales enablement. I really feel like The only way that sales enablement, a sales enablement leader or a team can really be effective is if they are constantly operating with high degrees of visibility inside the organization. And visibility equals clear data, period, end of story. So with good data, with good information, and with good metrics that are producing clear data and clear information, you can then, as a sales enablement leader or a team, correctly and appropriately diagnose where the problems are, where the gaps are, how big and intense they are, and you will get a whole lot better clues at how to address and solve them. And in terms of addressing and solving them, addressing and solving those problems can come in a lot of different ways. Processes might need to be adjusted. Tools and job aids might need to be created. Sales collateral and other kind of buyer journey content might need to be produced. Playbooks might need to be created. Training and coaching programs might need to be developed. Hiring processes might need to be adjusted. Sales compensation and bonus structure might need to be adjusted as well. New tech stacks and software platforms might need to be acquired. Like, we don't exactly know which of all of those different things might need to be played with or modified or adjusted unless we've got the data to substantiate and tell us exactly what we need to do and focus on. So part of this 2020 report, 2021 report was the critical nature that data plays. Another key insight was that they, at this point in time, with sales enablement being as mature as it is, they kind of broke companies into four categories, from kind of low to high. The low ones, who are pretty scatterbrained and not very aggressive or not very organized when it comes to sales enablement, are called laggards. The ones right up above are called novices. They might have some tools and they are focused on things. They might be gathering some data, but it's not scaled. It's not visible to every department, and it's still a little haphazard. So those are the novices. Next one up are the performers, and last but not least are the visionaries. And I'll just kind of read quickly what the definitions are. The laggards, again, are their sales enablement efforts involve ad hoc, informal processes focused primarily only on the sales function, and they have very limited software tools that they are using. The novices, they have sales enablement processes that are more refined and focused on sales and marketing. So not just sales team, but also sales and marketing. They're kind of getting at least two of those departments and teams focused on. They are conscientious that they need more software tools and are actively working to find those, but they lack integration. Some of the tools aren't talking well to each other. The reports don't apply to all departments and teams, and they've got some basic metrics and reporting. The performers, the third level up, sales enablement is a strategic cross-functional priority. They've got moderate tech stack software tools that they are using with some data sharing and integration there. And the data is routinely analyzed and used to measure effectiveness. So they're doing pretty well overall. And then you get to the visionaries. They call these companies visionaries because their sales enablement is a strategic priority for the company across all customer-facing teams. That means sales, or marketing, sales, and customer service. So all three, right? Let's see. They also have support from executive level champions, and are actively investing in sales enablement methods. They have robust, well integrated go-to-market software platforms with seamless data sharing. Insights are used to power and scale best practices across the organization. So I love the fact that they've kind of created this scale to rank different companies by how well they are using data and technology, how well it's integrated across multiple teams within the company, and how formalized they are making investments into it. Do they have a team, or do they have one person? How formalized is it? So, but with all that being said, after at the conclusion of the annual sales enablement benchmark report for 2021, Seismic does a good job at kind of wrapping up their summary. They've got 5 key takeaway points, and I'll share these and then kind of wrap up with you since we've been going a while. But the first finding that they had was that sales enablement, especially for companies in the tech, financial, or healthcare industries, it has to become a priority for you, which means investing and hiring people and teams, over this discipline. Number 2 key takeaway is making sure that all sales enablement efforts are aligned across the marketing, sales, and customer support and customer service functions within the company. Give them broad jurisdiction over all 3 of those so that they're well integrated. Number 3 takeaway and recommendation was making sure that the software platforms that are being used talk well to each other, that the data is well integrated, that analytics and reporting are clear, and that everybody has got clear visibility to what the data is, and that the data is being translated and interpreted and turned into actionable intel. Number 4 is making sure that all 3 teams, the marketing, sales, and customer service teams, are actually using the software tools, training them, coaching, going through those change management processes to help increase the adoption rate that all of the team members have of those software tools. So if you've got the tools but nobody's using them, then it's not going to work out very good. And last but not least is making sure to share best practices with all 3 teams. So your top performers in marketing, your top performers in sales, your top performers in customer service, watching what they do, how they do it, breaking that down and identifying what's working really well, codifying that, and actually sharing that with the other departments, and working hard to make all 3 of those teams, marketing, sales, and customer service, operating like really one revenue team. And so those were their key findings at the conclusion of this annual report. So number 1, get yourself a sales enablement team. Number 2, make sure it's cross-functional across marketing, sales, and customer service. Make sure that the software tools are talking well to each other, and you've got access to good, solid data that's going to help everybody. Make sure that everybody is using the software tools. And then 5th and final is make sure to share what's working and what's not working with everybody, and kind of have that collaborative, synergistic effect to continue to iterate and grow sales. So anyway, I thought some of these insights and takeaways would be helpful to learn, really, when it comes to sales enablement. Where have we been? Where has this whole discipline and focus come from since the 1970s? Where are we at today in 2021? I guess 2022, but then marching forward into this year and beyond, where things are definitely going. And we've talked about kind of those 5 key recommendations in terms of where we're going in the future and where the pressure points are. So anyway, reminder, I'll put the link to the annual sales enablement benchmark report in the comments in the link section below. Be sure to smash the subscribe button on this platform here so you can get notified every single week of new episodes coming out. And if you have any questions or comments, be sure to post those down below. And I can't wait to be back with you once again on the next episode of Sales Performance Improvement Radio. Take good care.